Well, time to drop a few more secrets of the universe here. And actually, no, not really. But I want to give you some information you're probably not going to be getting on the alternative media too much. But, it's available. But then again, it's not exactly 100% available all over the place and not easy to find. Now, one thing, I can tell you one thing. We got a lot of problems coming up. So, I mean, we're going to have some hard riding here in the near future. I think by the end of the year, you're going to see some serious life in the sign of the silver prices. Serious life. I know the summer might be in the doldrums for a while, but we got things coming up where I think the markets will come down, and they're not going to allow deflation. I mean, Ben Bernanke is, I know he's gone, but Ben Bernanke was a guy that was like always says, hey, we're going to fight deflation no matter what. Yellen makes Ben Bernanke look like a conservative hawk. So if there's a major problem, I know there's been predictions about $700 for gold and under $10 for silver. That would also mean there'd be serious deflation. I mean, sure, there could be deflation, but that's not going to be the way Yellen's going to let the ball bounce. So I think we're going to have some serious rough times ahead. Now, actually, the United States is kind of being propped up by the petrodollar, right? Here's the USA kind of leaning on a freaking table over here. That's basically the way things are going. During the time when Nixon was around, and you know what happened when he took us off the gold standard because everybody was redeeming their foreign-held U.S. dollars for gold. He stopped the outflow of gold. Basically, came up the U.S. dollar. Now, I'm showing a Chinese chick here on a bike for a reason, okay? I don't know if she's Chinese. I don't know if she's Oriental. I'm a round eye, so I don't know everybody. I don't know what everybody is, to tell you the truth. But anyway, the thing is that a lot of people don't remember this because, I'm a lot older than, a lot of people. And then, I remember during the time when Nixon was around, he had the wage and price controls, try to fight inflation. Boy, that didn't work out. And they also had the Arab oil embargo in '73, and they had another embargo later on with the freaking the gas lines. Actually, those are all the conditions where silver really and gold and platinum and palladium all took a big major run up in 1979. There was a lot of conditions that came across that did that. Now, this time, I think what's going to happen is actually China's coming on much, 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 much stronger, and by the end of the year, they're not going to replace the dollar as the world reserve currency or anything like that. They're just going to be another world reserve currency. Like in other words, right now the U.S. dollar is the premier world reserve currency, but number two is the euro, and there's other ones, but the euro is another one. I don't remember what the other ones are. Probably the British pound. I could be wrong about that, but I know the euro is another one. But already, the situation is that China is, getting so big, even though they're not a world reserve currency. I put out that thing about they're doing direct trade with Russia, and Russia's selling them oil, and Russia's selling them a lot more oil, and Russian oil is getting paid for, not in U.S. dollars, but in Chinese money, Chinese yuan, and Saudi's exports are going down. Now, I can tell you one thing. We're running into a lot of roadblocks here in the United States on every front. I'm not going to tell you the end is near because it's going to actually, there's a lot of stuff coming up piecemeal. And, one of the other things that's basically unrelated to the economic side, and I guess it's kind of related a little bit, but it would be the fact that, the cyber attacks on the U.S. military, on the OPM, the Office of Personnel Management, and also on the FBI and the CIA files. I don't know about how our national security is now and what it's going to be in the future. And, I guess that could have economic repercussions. Big time. Big time. So we're running into a lot of roadblocks, man. I can tell you that right now. Now, I don't know if the freaking elite are planning it this way, but I can tell you one thing. The elite on the top in the West, if they're playing games like this and selling us down the river to China, I'll tell you what, the elite are going to wind up getting chopped off too at the same also, but we're going to get the brunt of it. That's what I don't like about this deal. But anyway, There's other things coming up too, and I also want to state this. If they go to where I see China's actually going to go ahead and their currency is going to get a lot stronger, is by the end of the year, they're going to vote on, and they only do this twice a decade, they're going to vote on, it might be in October, it might be November, I don't know exactly when, but they're going to vote on whether to have China be an official world reserve currency. Not the world reserve currency, but another world reserve currency. But what that means is more money is going to flow out of the investors, out of the U.S. dollar and into Chinese money, even though it's kind of doing it right now unofficially. The big stumbling block, I think 5 years ago, was that China did not have enough exports. But since in the last 5 years or so, Chinese export economy grew several times. And, actually the U.S. owes China I think $1.3 trillion or something like that. It's some ridiculous amount. But, we got a lot of different things coming up, and I don't know what the deal is. It's almost like mass confusion. We got a million things coming up. We got the problem with China. We got the problem with Obama. And, actually, Obama, I think, in the future is going to be pushing, they want to, if he had his way and Valerie Jarrett had his way, you talk about, restricting our freedoms, they'd have Sharia law. This is how you'd be riding a bicycle. I know it's a snowy picture and it's cold, but you'd be wearing a mask, riding a bicycle, even if it's 90 degrees out. You'd be wearing all this stuff. They got some. It's crazy how the United States is going. It's like they're restricting so many of our freedoms. And you seen the last thing that happened. And now, I don't know. Maybe I got too much of a conspiratorial mind, but I remember when this kid, what the hell was it, Dylan Roof, whatever his name was, did this South Carolina massacre in the church, right? The oldest established black church. I'm beginning to wonder if this guy was like a pre-programmed zombie. Not only did they ban the rebel flag, but they banned the Dukes of Hazzard, these car like this, and all the reruns on the shows and stuff like that. Now, I don't have, I'm putting this on here. I don't have a Confederate flag because I'm from up north, and it's like, I don't know why I'd have a Confederate flag because I'm not a Southerner. It would be, I don't really think of nothing of it. I just think of it as a South thing. But I do have all the Dukes of Hazzard reruns on DVD, and I had them for a number of years. They're goofy, I kind of cracked up at some of the stuff that was on there. Uncle Jesse, Daisy, and, all that stuff. And actually, this picture is one of those, okay for commercial use and stuff like that, and all that kind of shit like that, according to Yahoo. But, how the hell could you say this is racist, with, Daisy, Bo, Luke, and Uncle Jesse and Goober. Goober was my favorite. He was the mechanic. He worked on this thing. I always respect mechanics. But, I'm thinking is this. This actually, when they stopped all these flags, I'm leading up to something. When they stopped all these flags from being sold on the markets, that really didn't come from Amazon, Walmart, Google stores, and Sears. That came from the U.S. government, actually from Obama himself. And I don't know if it's just Obama. I don't think it's just Obama. It's like a whole bunch of people. But, it actually came from the U.S. government itself. But the way I'm looking at this, if you think back during the time we had stagflation and all these other problems, if they got this incident with this kid shooting, doing a shooting in a church, and they're banning the Dukes of Hazzard, what, are they kidding me? That show was like a spoof comedy, goofy show with family values in it, actually. If they're banning that show, can you imagine what these yo-yos are going to be doing if we have a national crisis where, there's, hyperinflation in food or something like that and energy? Holy shit. If they're going off the tangent on this type of stuff, I can't imagine what these assholes would be doing later on. It's ridiculous, I'm kind of putting this in here because I'm kind of putting two and two together on just how screwed up the government can get. I thought Tricky Dick was pretty damn bad with it. You see, I didn't really give a damn about his Watergate break-in shit. To me, that you think about today, with what the hell was it, Hillary Clinton, and you compare her freaking problems, all that crap she did, and Bill Clinton and Bush's and all that kind of garbage, compared to what Tricky Dick did with the Watergate break-in. It was nothing. But what I used to hate about Tricky Dick, Nixon, was his wage and price controls. But can you imagine what these yo-yos are going to be doing if there's hyperinflation or something like that? They're going to try to hold the price down. We're going to have shortages. But I'm going to tell you this. Just like silver does this all the time, and this is probably the best representation. You remember when Bo and Luke used to jump to General Lee over to cop cars and stuff like that and get it way up in the air? That's kind of like what silver's going to do. I think that's the best way to freaking represent what's going to happen. It's going to hit the ramp, it's going to take off like a rocket, and then it's going to hit a height, and it's go up there so damn fast, it's going to shock you. It's going to surprise the hell out of the markets everywhere, and everybody's going to think it's going to the moon. Then all of a sudden, inertia and gravity is going to take over, and it's going to have a hard landing. The problem is how high is high, and how far is the damn car going to jump? Because basically the General Lee and silver is almost like the same damn thing. I mean, that's one way of thinking it, because that's the one thing about this metal, man. You don't know when the hell it's going to jump up. You don't know how high, how far, which means for how long, and how hard it's going to crash. That's what it always does, man. That's why they call it the devil's metal. But during this time, I think their government's going to get crazy, man, because, if they're freaking trying, if they can lean on it, I figured this, Amazon and Google stores and Sears and Walmart and eBay, it would actually be making loads of money selling these flags, right? I mean, they don't give a shit. I mean, there's freaking money, right? It's just a flag. Why are they stopping sales? They got leaned on by the government, right? And, Dukes of Hazzard. I can't imagine what would happen in a national crisis, what kind of crazy rules these assholes will be coming up. It's going to get crazier than crazy. So anyway, according to what the crazy chick says, just hang loose. That's all I got to tell you, because, go with the flow and roll with the punches the best you can, because I think that we're in for some seriously freaking hard times coming up. And when silver does finally take off, I think it's going to start taking off. First off, I think they're going to have a major crash in the economy, right? And in the not the economy, but in the markets. I mean, they've been saying this. The major media has been saying this. The markets are all bought up on margin, leverage. There's loaded debt. Once it starts going down, they'll start having a margin calls and an avalanche of sales on the equities, and it'll go down. Janet Yellen makes Bernanke look like a freaking hawk. She's like, if we used to call him, or we used to call him Helicopter Ben. He'd do whatever he could to fight deflation. She's even more so than him. So, I mean, she hasn't had to do this just yet. But if that's the case, she's going to do everything in her power to fight deflation. I mean, it could go to deflation if there was somebody else in there running the Federal Reserve, but it's her. And, everything I know about her, she supposedly makes Helicopter Ben look like a hawk. So, I mean, to me, that's telling me we could have some serious inflation. And what I think is going to, it's almost a guarantee. It's a guarantee, really. China is going to be one of the world reserve currencies. It's not going to be the world reserve currency, but when they do this, they have the next meeting and they have the review. Everything's in place. They're one of the largest economies in the world, if not the largest. If they're one of the largest, their exports have grown over 6 times in the last 5 years. 5 years ago, that was the one thing where they didn't have them as in a world reserve currency, and they already, in a way, are a de facto world reserve currency without actually being one, because that's what's actually happening in reality. People are, countries are buying, are paying for goods in Chinese yuan versus dollars, like China's doing that. Of course, what the hell else is no. So that's going to actually stifle our ability to keep the imports coming in from China the way they were, because the way we pay for it is not to go in debt per se. Is we just print more dollars. They could just add. They can always print more dollars and pay for it in dollars. They got a racket. with the U.S. having the largest dominant world reserve currency. But some of that, it's not going to all come down right away. But some of that's going to be whittled away. And that should start happening around October or November. It should be right around that time. And that's when it's going to start coming down for, it's not going to be the death of the dollar. It's not going to be the end of it. I mean, that's too far in the future that I can predict, but it's going to start eroding its power. And I think we're going to get in a situation worse than in the 70s. And, one of the few assets that really protected you back in the 70s was silver. But then again, you got to remember, it's going to do some crazy jumps. It's going to be like that General Lee car, the Dukes of Hazzard had, Bo and Luke and Goober freaking tuned up the engine, whatever the hell it was. This freaking car. I freaked out when he says, dude, they're making that show, like they can't even show that show on reruns. I was like, get the hell out of here, man. There's something freaky going on here, man. That's why I'm really thinking it was, that's why I'm thinking that, church thing was a setup, man. Now I'm really thinking so because of the way they reacted. I mean, Dukes of Hazzard, get the hell out of here, man. Freaking, that's a racist, that ain't a racist show. Are you kidding me? Uncle Jesse and Goober and Bo and Luke and Daisy? No way in hell, man. No way in hell. So, but it makes you think about what kind of damn rules these yo-yos are going to be coming up with if we get some serious problems in this nation. And I think there is, I'm going to tell you this, though. I'm going to leave you with this thought because the government is like a mixed bag. By and large, there's a lot of really patriotic people working in the government. That's probably most of them. But there are, I think it's no BS or no conspiracy theory to say that the government, within the government, there is some serious, underhanded stuff going on whereby they're trying to really just take over and have a major power grab and destroy everybody's civil rights and freedoms. I think there's something to that as conspiracy theories. It's not like, I know it's not as crazy as some of the freaking stuff that's out there that they're always telling everybody, but I think there's some elements that are trying to work through the government to take away our freedoms and just control everybody, rule them. It's not, but that's the thing, it's not the government by and large, because I can tell you most people work in the government are not like that. They're patriotic, they're like, they're doing whatever they could do to try to be fair and square and all this other kind of crap. So, beware of fanning the flames of, revolution and stuff like this, because I know they got a lot of that crap going around. And you shouldn't take crap, but then on the other side of it, I think there's a lot of the major alternative media yo-yos out there that are deliberately trying to rile people up. And I don't like that, to tell you the truth. You should get riled up to a point, but be cool, you know what I mean? Which is not too easy to say, but it pissed me off. I got pissed off when I saw this crap with the Dukes of Hazzard. I said, get the hell out of here. I mean, I don't have a Confederate flag, but I got all their episodes, every one of them on DVD. I got them from years ago. I mean, they were cheap. They didn't cost much money. But it was like, it's just a dumb... That was the only one I ever got, with freaking old shows. It was still stupid. It kind of cracked me up. And it was so silly. It was just goofy, And for them to take that off the air because it's racist, I was like, get the hell out of here. It ain't racist, you freaking idiots. So, I mean, I don't know what kind of crackpot freaking things that are going to come out of the government when we get some serious problems. And, that's some pretty scary shit. But, here's the other side of it. While things maybe start going down over here in the United States, there might be uprisings in China because, the Communist Party over there is cracking down on all these Chinese people for, doing some kind of, religious breathing exercises or some crap like that. I mean, I don't know, the Chinese parties, Communist parties, one year they're fine with something, and the next year they say, "No, you can't do that." They're gonna have a revolution over there, and once that happens, I mean, I don't know, the whole thing's coming down, man. You know. So like everything's a damn diversion, you know. Everything's diversion, and I didn't really want to include this too much in the silver update. I really want to bring out the fact that I think the Chinese yuan is going to be a world reserve currency, not the world reserve currency, but officially a world reserve currency by the end of the year, and that's going to start drastically affecting the power of the dollar. But I think, the more I'm figuring out with how they banned all this rebel flag stuff in the Dukes of Hazzard, I was like, get the Dukes of Hazzard. I'm beginning to think that church shooting was a setup. The kid was a pre-programmed zombie with some kind of psychiatric drugs, and they freaking had him do that shit. Because the cause and effect is just too weird, you know? It's just too much on key with a lot of things in a Trans-Pacific Partnership and all this other kind of crap. But, just keep thinking, stay cool, because, for every move they make, we got to stick together and, fight the power. The power is, sometimes, like I said, they're so freaking smart, they outsmart themselves. So, but the thing is, I think the power is also in the alternative media. And they're trying to rile people up and cause them to do things and all this other kind of crap. So, stay cool, stay cool. That's all I got to say. And, again, silver, when it jumps, it's going to jump like the General Lee. It can jump way higher than you thought, it was a Sheriff Roscoe P. Coltrane could be looking up to General Lee, woo, up there, way up in the air. He's like wondering, holy shit, how high is that going? Where's that thing going? That could be just like what it does, right? But it's going to come down, man. It's going to come down hard. They wrecked over 300 of these freaking 68 Chargers back in the day, and they had a shortage of them back in Southern California. You know that, right? It'd probably be a shortage of silver too, right? So anyway, that's a good representation of what silver's going to do. It's going to jump, man. It's going to jump, and it's going to crash again. So, but I don't know how high. I wish I did know. I'm not Johnny Carson, Karnak the magician here. So anyway, I'm trying to give you the best information I can. But I think the beginning is going to start this year when they have officially Chinese yuan as a world reserve currency. It's going to start pulling some of that money from the dollar demand, blah, 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 demand for the dollar. And, we also got the problem with all this cyber attacks and espionage, and they got tens of thousands of freaking files on our CIA agents, FBI agents, Office of Personnel Management, Defense Department. I don't know, man. This shit is messed up, man. Messed up.